Niger Republic places the military on alert as coup plotters dig in. And later on the show, Delta governor test drives Nigeria-made electric vehicles, consider them option for mass transportation as federal government ramps up plans for compressed natural gas-fired vehicles. I'll be hanging out with Babajide Kolade, Otitoju, and Dotun Oladipo. If you're ready, let the hangout start. Thank you for staying with us. Let's begin with the Royal Rumble that is playing out in the Edo State Government's house. The battle between Governor Godwin Obaseki and his deputy Philip Shuaibu over who succeed him as governor in 2024 assumed a disturbing dimension when the deputy went to court to obtain an injunction against an alleged impeachment plot against him. Justice Ahmed Mohammed of the Federal High Court, Abuja, issued an interim injunction and ordered Governor Obaseki and others to halt the alleged plan to impeach Shuaibu over alleged infractions. The court directed the parties in the suit to maintain status quo ante bellum. I will start this discussion with Benin Obi Lagos. That conversation in 4 years ago. I mean, is it 4 years ago? 3 years ago now, when that election was held, and you know the way Godwin Obaseki and Philip Shuaibu, when he left the APC, actually went to the People's Democratic Party, and part of the condition that Godwin Obaseki gave them that time was that, look, he can't just be given the ticket alone. He had to make sure that Philip Shuaibu was actually chosen as his deputy in a new party. So the People's Democratic Party had to accommodate both of them, show the kind of relationship that they had or that we saw from the outside. Now, what is happening? Philip Shuaibu is preempting whatever move that his boss might take by going to court first. And this is the first time I'll be hearing of this kind of thing, situation that's, look, let me rush to the courts to forestall the looming impeachment against me.
Well, it's not the first time that the deputy governor will try to stop an impeachment. Once it's obvious, they will do their best to stop it. You saw what happened in your state back then. If not for the fact that the then deputy governor moved fast and reminded our people of the fact that they didn't have the numbers to take him out. The plan had been perfected to impeach him.
Okay.
At that time. His name doesn't even come to my mind now. But yes, he contested. Nigerian governors imagine that they are some form of deity, that they are like God. And I blame the Constitution, because the Constitution has not assigned specific roles for deputy governors. What the Constitution in Section 186 says is there shall be each state, for each state of the Federation, a deputy governor. And Section 193 says the governor of a state may, in his discretion, assign to the deputy governor or any commissioner of the government of the state responsibility for any business of government of the state, including the administration of any department of the government. And he talks about the fact that the governor of the state shall hold meetings.
Effectively putting him at the mercy.
The Constitution does not assign specific roles. And that's why governors continue to treat their deputies like spare tire, or what you can call a caddy. In golf, these people carry bags for golfers. They are called caddies.
Go after.
So it has become more like a golfer-caddy relationship. A caddy is a glorified houseboy. messenger. You send him wherever you want, you know. On that course, you can be on the golf course for 8 hours. All he does is following you up and down, helping you to pick your balls, helping you to bring out the particular golf club that you want to use to play, you know. So, and it shouldn't be so. Governor Obaseki has clearly shown to Philip Shaibu that he does not want him to succeed him. But what is the business of governors determining who succeeds them?
Yeah.
Why should you go against your deputy simply because he showed an interest to contest?
He has the right.
He has the right to contest. And if you have, we've seen people, Oshomole did not impeach his deputy.
Otubu.
He allowed him to contest. Some of his own cabinet members even supported his deputy. Yes. I remember people like our friend, Kazim. It was the deputy that they supported. But he still didn't stop them from losing the election.
The governor will rally around the person he wants.
In spite of that, they lost the primaries by a huge margin because the governor decided to go for this same Obaseki. Well, it didn't take Obaseki so long to turn totally against Oshomole. You know, I mean, this is very distasteful to become governor and then want to determine who even contests, not who wins. So
yes. Because
it has not even reached the point.
It has gotten to this level.
It has not even reached the point.
He doesn't want him to show interest
at all. I mean, it's not your slave. I don't know why governors behave like this. And it's not. This will not be the last time we'll talk about it. Another governor will still do something like this because they think that they are gods with a small letter G, or that they have 10 heads. And some of these people were inconsequential people before they became governors. Inconsequential people that you do not even, you don't read about them at all.
At all.
Thoroughly self-regarding people. Why are they like this? Somebody wants to contest. What is the big deal? All you can do is leave him, let him contest.
And make sure you put your weight behind the person you are supporting.
So what is wrong? Why are you scared?
That's the word.
Yeah, that's the thing. The things that maybe
it's afraid of the capacity of this young man.
This is a man. Look at all Oshomole did for this man. What did Oshomole get in return? In fact, in that last election, the PDP did not campaign much. They were simply playing Oshomole's videos.
Soundbites.
Against the person who contested against.
Someone had thoroughly damaged.
Yes, he had demarketed that person thoroughly.
So it was very easy.
They were just playing.
So what has changed?
They were just playing. You know those PDP people. you need to fear them. APC appointed somebody to be the chair of the election in Edo. What did they do? They went and in the roundabouts, a big roundabout in the state, they posted a video of dollar collection. So this is the man they made chairman. He posted video of the dollar collection. Have we ever seen that level of so this is, you can't put anything beyond the man. I think that this Obaseki's own is he behaves like a very cold politician. He should at least remember how they fought together, how this guy showed extreme loyalty. I've seen Philip Shaibu once at an event. This event that I think it was Tribune newspapers.
Okay.
60 years.
Okay,
of Tribune. Years. That was where I saw him. In fact, it was the one who greeted me. I didn't recognize him immediately because I've never seen him personally. And no one will say, oh, Jide, Philip Shaibu is Jide's friend, because you remember some of the things we said about them here. You know, things that I have no regret about saying. But look at him today. Look at what he's going through in the hands of a man that he gave total loyalty to. When he's traveling, now how can you? Why should you send a memo to your aides that they should never deal with the deputy governor. What's the meaning of that? That's petty. That's petty. And he claims that he's using the police.
Or not allowing him to the venue of a meeting. The deputy governor.
Nobody was elected. It's a joint ticket. When Obasanjo tried to do something like this, the courts.
Atiku went to...
Yes, Atiku went to court.
And the court proved it.
The court said no. Obasanjo wanted to even completely chase away Atiku. And the court said no, it's a joint ticket. Is that same Obasanjo today who wants people to believe that he's the greatest Democrat alive? Or where?
I don't know, Dotu. When you want to look at it, the history, just this same governor wanted Philip Shuaibu to run for the senatorial district against Adams Oshiomhole in 2023. And his inability to do so, we understand that actually got the governor very annoyed. And Shuaibu knows that he might not be able to withstand Oshiomhole in the north.
No, it's even an attempt to ensure
to stop contesting.
Apart from even stopping him, he would have left office. He would. Because you can't be holding onto this and seeking this.
If he won the thing, he wanted to use it to ensure that...
You know, the man will be out. But like BKO said, 2 issues or 3 stand out for me. Number 1, we should look at our constitution. At the level of the presidency, we've seen some changes, even beginning with Obasanjo, where the vice president was given the economy to manage. Unfortunately, whether that person understands the economy or not, it has become a norm now. But we need to look at it. In Lagos, at some point, the deputy governor was in charge of education. And that perhaps gave it some weight. And we can see what the differences are between when the commissioner was fully in charge and is fully in charge now and what it was before when the deputy governor took charge. Number 2 is that Obaseki is failing to realize that this man has some political weight. Whether you like it or not, the man has what he has contributed to that ticket, even in winning the last election.
Remember when they went to Oba of Benin's palace?
Yes,
it was Shuaibu that the Oba reprimanded.
You know, so for me, he should have considered that. Then 3 is one of the few deputy governors that we have seen actively involved in one sphere or the other. For me,
exactly sports.
I was going to say that I'm very proud of his contribution to the re-emergence of Benden Insurance.
Yes, yes.
The man trains with them. He doesn't just go there. He trains with them as a former footballer. He trains with them. And see where he has gotten them now. If you consider some of those things, you would have known that this is not a man to just throw away. You don't throw such people into petty politics. There is no way a Philip Shuaibu would have contested against an Adams Oshiomhole and defeated him in that senatorial election. Even the governor himself, if he was from that senatorial, he can't try it. Because it's a small area. It's not like the old states. It's a district. So there is no way the man would have defeated him. And if he's not careful, just like it has happened to some governors who tried to produce their success, so he's going to lose it.
Yes.
Because these are the things people are going to look at. And if eventually, close to the election, Shuaibu decides to leave PDP and pitch camp with another party, that's taken away from whatever votes that the PDP will get. And I can assure you that taking away can be less than 25–40%. So I think the Constitution itself, we must work on it.
It's an unfolding event.
Whether we like it or not, if we continue this way, because the way the Constitution has described deputy governors, they are as good as commissioners.
Yes.
In some states, including some who are neighboring states to Lagos, we've seen a situation where a deputy governor, when the governor is not absent, will have to go to the wife to obtain clearance and approval.
No, some will even hand over to SSG.
You know,
when they have a governor.
When they have a
you are traveling, you are handing over to SSG.
SSG.
There are many states where it's happening.
Many states.
Some, they don't just complain. You see them. I know a governor from North Central, for example, who treats his deputy as if it's a sweet wrap on the floor. No regard. When he's leaving, in fact, he will hear from some other people that he has traveled. I don't know what has come over these governors.
I think it's simply because they control.
And it's not all of
money.
them. No, it's because all of them are not like that.
Yeah, but the money.
No, some of them.
The power of money.
The power that they've given them is just too much. The Constitution needs to assign rules. This thing happened. Many states, I don't want to go to some of those states that I know that deputy governors are just there for nothing. They call them spare tire.
Spare tires.
In fact, perhaps spare tire is even of greater value than some.
It's even useful once in a while. But
this is what they've turned them to. So when you have a governor who is devious, who is wicked, who is cruel, you see them manifest that nature thoroughly on their deputies.
All right. Most times in Nigeria, the more things change, the more they remain the same. Following the euphoria that greeted the opening of the second Niger Bridge, the belief is that the ugly stories about the first one will be forgotten. The national president of Heavy Duty Drivers Association, Uchenna Nebua, has let it be known that members of the association and other drivers no longer use the second Niger Bridge due to security concerns. Nebua said the criminals have taken over the routes, including Obosi, Weri axis of the road. According to him, hoodlums, armed robbers, and kidnappers now operate along the bridge. What is this now? No, we don't have facility. The government has provided facility. It's turning into security risk again.
Yeah, but you can't blame them. Honestly, you can't blame them. If you cannot secure the highway and the highway seems lonely, then you are a sitting duck because the kidnappers will just pick you easily. And that's what is happening. We are not talking about the Onitsha end of the bridge now. It's towards the end. And this is where government has to do something. We can have motorized patrol. I still believe that motorized patrol is the best. Because if these kidnappers find out that you are staying at one spot, they will not operate in the area where you are. And when a vehicle is full of kidnappers, you may not even know until they park somewhere and start operating. This bridge is too expensive for us to have the kind of problem that we are having. In fact, apart from the Abuja-Kaduna-Kano highway, this is one road that costs the federal government so much money. Now, the people don't want to use it.
Why is it
and it's so, look at the travel time that it can save. It's so wide. You know? But nobody will risk his life if the place is not secure. We can now see that we were talking about how they were vandalizing the handrail, the fittings of the bridge the other day, around where those junction areas. There's something they call them. I do not remember now. Okay, I'm not an engineer. But those fittings are being removed. They deliberately made the handrails concrete. Sort of. Because our old bridges, they usually vandalize the handrails. But now the expansion joints, that's what I want to say, the expansion joints are being vandalized by all these people who sell scrap metals and all that. I can now see that it's because the place is lonely. That's why it has been difficult for those people to operate with reckless abandon. And the engineers who maintain the bridge are saying, well, it's not our job to provide security. And I agree. I agree. There's nothing they can do. If guys come down from a Sienna now and fire into the air with the engineers stay, nobody will stay now. Nobody wants to die.
That's not their job.
So it's terrible, but security has to be provided on that road. We can't spend all that money to construct a bridge that nobody wants to use. It's absolutely senseless.
Dosu, whose responsibility should this be? Is it the state government or the federal government? Between Delta State and Anambra State?
Don't forget it's a federal road.
Okay.
But just like we've always argued, Nigerians are not interested in whose road it is. It's for us to be able to have good roads to use. So also are Nigerians not interested in whose duty it is to provide security. What we want is the security. Now, when this bridge was going to be commissioned, it was done in a hurry, in the twilight of the last administration. So it meant things were done hurriedly. There were no plans for other things surrounding the use of that bridge, including security. Because now we are complaining that security agencies are spread too thin. You don't have enough. And then there are now other creations where you need them to work. How do you do that? So it then brings us back, if you ask me, to the issue of state police. Or a constitutional amendment that will allow for whether the state or regional security outfits to be properly armed in order to confront some of these challenges that we are having. You can't have a road that expensive and that's useful in terms of travel time for us to hand it over to armed robbers, kidnappers. It shouldn't be. Whether it is the state that will help out or it is the federal government that will find a solution, something must be done, and very quickly too. Otherwise, in another 1 year, that old bridge will not just be abandoned, it will be cannibalized. We saw what happened in Lagos, even where we had security. Why it's taking this long? Another 40 days of closure of Eco Bridge, though one side was announced. And why? Some guys went under the bridge and took out those irons holding the bridge together around the expansion joints, like BQ pointed out. That's what happened in Lagos. So we should expect it to happen, because after stealing everything on the outside that we can see, what else will be left? It will be for them to take boats and go underneath and begin to cannibalize. So we must be able to do something. Otherwise, that investment will go to naught. And the only prayer we can have now is, whenever there is going to be trouble, let there be no lives lost. Because when there is going to be a crack, it won't announce it to anybody.
So
and it's just a matter of
call on the Inspector General of Police to actually look into that area. We can't have a big facility like that and it will be abandoned, or it will be left to hoodlums to make it their next home. It's saddening to note that oil theft in Nigeria has become hydra-headed monster. The more you cut it, the more it grows others. Operatives of the Antita Security Services, owned by Israel leader of the Niger Delta agitators government, Ekpomokpolo, popularly called Pompolo, intercepted an allegedly stolen vessel laden with suspected crude oil in Koko area of Warri North local government area of Delta States. In this latest incident of crude oil theft in the country, the vessel was said to be carrying about 8,100 barrels of suspected crude oil and was being allegedly escorted by some naval officers led by a Commodore. Jay. This is not. It's not good at all.
Yes.
Never come out.
We don't.
So now, confirming what has been said before, that officially.
Now look at what they are saying was that yes, it was authorized to carry products by the Navy, but did not have any approvals from the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority.
What's the meaning of that?
The question is, does the Navy have the right to commandeer a vessel to carry products? Whose product is it? Is it their products? Are they involved in oil production? I mean, in our country, all kinds of strange things happen now. Sometimes you will almost run mad. What's going on? What's going on? We suspected all along that, look, without official collusion, there's no way people will be stealing more than 500,000 barrels of oil a day, thereby making it difficult for us as a country to even make enough money. Everybody is smiling to the bank over the Putin war. We are the only oil major that is not making money. Come on. I mean, this has to stop. And there's a big campaign now to say, oh, let's stop the Tompolo's company. Let's stop this. What the truth is, within the time that they've been involved in this thing,
yes,
people have seen some progress now.
Yes.
We can't deny it. Except we don't fear God. Although I know a lot of us don't fear God. And there are the same people who complain that somebody swear to God. How is their business? I don't know. What you do is between you and your God. You commune with your God. You promise your God that, okay, you want to do this. It bothers you that somebody decided to swear to God. Well, a lot of people parading our streets, claiming that they are good Christians or good Muslims, they are worse than animists. They are not Christians in the real sense of the word because they are not Christ-like. There's a lot of sabotage in our country. There's a lot of sabotage. You don't want Tompolo to continue to do this. They should not renew his contract. Well, people have seen that this kind of arrests were not being made before now.
In the last 3 months now, I mean, look at the number of.
They said the vessel with 1,117 tons capacity was carrying about 8,100 barrels of suspended crude oil. At the time, who owns it? Does it belong to NNPC Limited? Who owns the product that was found on it? These are questions to answer. Who told the Navy to accompany it? We can't just leave these issues unattended to.
Led by Commodore.
Who even be anybody, Ayo. But who gave the directive that, come on, you see, Asari said those things, they were abusing him. Asari may say a lot of rubbish.
Honestly.
It doesn't mean that everything that comes out of his mouth makes no sense. He said
it
is so bad now that even straight from the wellhead, people are stealing crude. And it's not even a case of busting pipelines and then taking from the wellhead. From the wellhead, people are taking. That is too brazen. It's like saying, look, do your worst. I want to steal this.
Military, everybody will be involved.
Yes.
The owners of the thing.
Yes, they are involved. Official complicity. That level of stealing cannot simply be done by small boys or small fries. No, big people, traditional rulers are involved.
Yeah.
Big people in those areas, they are involved. Big politicians are involved.
Make additional money.
Yes, big politicians are involved. You know, once you join them now, they will send you your own court. And then you pretend like you are not aware that such level of infraction is going on. That's why our country is where it is. I mean, this has to be properly investigated, and those behind this must be punished. Must be punished. The operatives said they refused to back down, but eventually contacted the NSA, the Badu, and the Chief of Naval Staff, who then authorized they should inspect the vessel. During the inspection, they noticed that the vessel was authorized to carry product by the Navy, but did not have any approval from the Nigerian mainstream and downstream petroleum authority.
We should grant
What's the meaning of that?
So that means it is illegal. Illegal job.
That's the
The
meaning.
thing is secured,
yes.
but not approval from the.
Right, because it's just like people who load from the park. Let's even use the ordinary one people can understand. Who load from this park, our parks, and then you now say the people at the gates who opened the door of the park now gave you a manifest to use. What about the one with the NURCW or RCN logo? Manifest itself, issued officially. That's what it means. That those passengers
Doesn't add up.
are illegal. That's the meaning. And you see, I read the defense of the Navy and I laughed because it doesn't even make sense for you to try to twist logic and stand logic on its head. You said you were escorting. He said, no, you weren't escorting. We stopped boats of you on the sea. So how will you be escorting what is illegal, if indeed, and then refuse to back down if it was
Is it
illegal?
Nigerian vessel?
It's a
Not
Togolese.
It's a Togolese vessel.
So
Does the product belong to NNPC? The answer is no. Because the NNPC should have come out to say, look, that product
yes,
is our,
it's
no.
our own.
That is when you can say officially.
Even
That's
NNPC,
the only one that you should be able to
officially.
export.
NNPC left Abuja to go and find out again. So if it knew about it from the onset, why will it be going? Why will it send a committee to go and find out? From available information in security circles, there are said to be three major pipelines that it will deal with. While the one under Tantina with Tompolo as head is said to be about 95% secure. Can't find breakages. You can't find people tapping. That's 95% secure. Another one in a private hand, the second one, is 65% secure. The one under the military is said to be around 5%.
That's
which is quite sad.
That's distasteful to hear.
Which is quite sad. How do you have people
They are meant
who
to
are
be the highest standard of
that's their own job?
professionalism, do their
That's their
job
own
and
job.
everything.
Whatever these other people do is just bonus.
I'm telling you,
And we're even
the
paying
private
for it.
contractor will be learning from them.
What they have even done to us is this, sir. We are paying the military to secure us. They can't. We now go to a private security concern, we pay. And then they still use the
That
same
is
military
trying to sabotage them.
we are using to secure those pipelines. The same military.
Go.
So it's sad. And when the last time the Kubo came up and said, this is, the Navy was quick. But it forgot that down the line, some years back, when Rubadu was chairman of the EFCC, Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, 2 rear admirals were sent to jail for such complicity as this, under Rubadu. So, if this is happening,
How can somebody rise to a level of rear admiral? Yes, and you are doing this.
and you are doing this,
Rear admiral.
if Rubadu
All your years in the military,
telling you.
and
telling you.
years of waste.
waste,
Down the drain.
if Rubadu did not intervene in this, I'm wondering what would have happened. It means those guys would have gotten away with it.
Yes.
That's the meaning.
And that's why it makes sense that
It's
when
not
you
at all.
take this kind of job, there has to be direct access
Yeah.
to the big decision makers.
man.
Because if, for example, they couldn't reach Ribadu, for example, as NSA, and they tried to call the Chief of Naval Staff too, they couldn't reach him. Otilo.
They would have. They
don't go with
that's the
that.
meaning.
Have you?
That's the meaning. So we still need to work on this. If indeed the office of the NSA is as equipped as it is now, then we must tap into that technology.
Going like that is an ongoing thing.
Yes,
so
we have to start.
No, this won't be the last.
It won't be the last. But at least
look at the
send
video
a signal.
Sent to me that in the heart of town, somebody has underground storage depot, just storing crude oil. You won't even know that something like that was there. That means it's possible for them to even construct a network of pipelines from where they are stealing crude. And then you see a giant building in the heart of town. You think, oh, it's people are living inside, whereas it's a storage facility. Look at the danger in the event of any conflagration. You know how many people it will kill.
I don't know if you recollect the story in Abuleba.
Yes.
Yes, now.
Just some years back,
December
where they took a pipe with petrol
under people's house
and took it right into the hotel. Until some neighbors shouted that we smell petrol here every day. We see huge tankers coming. This is supposed to be hotel. And that is Nigeria for you. So I can imagine what will be happening in the heart of the Niger Delta, especially those areas that you can't reach by road. And the NSA has a lot of work to do.
I think clearly now, it's no longer...
Because Ajuri is desperate to ensure that we'll make more money, from crude oil. And that's why it's trying to...
So these people will be having it more difficult now.
He will be...
It's not going to be as...
He will be harassing them to produce results, because he knows that the more we are able to limit this theft, the more money we make as a nation. We can't meet our targets. You are breaching oil pipelines. Even so many of the oil majors, they've run away from Nigeria because the level of stealing is too much.
A lot, I mean, some of them, Shell, for instance, they are giving up their allocations, their oil wells.
No, they are leaving. They are divesting from Nigeria.
Waste of
and when they divest like that, you know, that means oil production will reduce, because you need time to fill the vacancy, I mean, the voids that they have created by their departure. Jeep and the rest of them just leaving. You know, it's sad.
So we want to know, at the end of the day, what will happen to this vessel?
Yeah, but it should be. This should
and
even
the
be
people, because
it's the job
it's
of
not just arresting the errand boys.
Yes.
We want to know those behind this.
Of course, of course.
Now that some people in the Navy have been identified, especially the Commodore,
they need to interrogate them. Let's get more facts.
What happened? Who sent him?
And there should not be cover-up, because Nigeria is a country where cover-ups happen easily.
And one day we forget. Another story will break tomorrow.
No, people won't even talk about that. Okay. Even when they talk about it, they pitch tent based on tribal.
That's another
I've never seen a people like this.
That's another problem.
Tribal. That means whether you will comment on a matter, depending on who the tribe of the person, the criminal. And when you comment, you take side. Yes. If you don't, you most of the time they just fail to comment. They just look away like it didn't happen. A criminal is a criminal, whether it comes from your hometown or not.
No.
People must realize that. It's silly. It's very silly to not attack a criminal just because he's from your area.
And be attacking the person
this person too did it. It's not our business whether someone, once that person is arrested, let us shame him. Let's not protect him. Let's not say, oh, because he's this. No, that's not what we want. That's not what we want.
And it's one of the reasons why somebody like me, when the issue was brought up that ministerial nominees, they're wearing generals who will oversee Ministry of Defense. I said, well, it's okay for us if that will yield the desired result. Because when they were there, what did we get? We had a lot of situations like this.
It's not even a new thing. From time immemorial, we've been using civilians.
It's not,
it's not our country alone that does.
It's not. What we need are effective people.
A woman
very effective.
Was chief of, was Minister of Defense in Germany. That time when Buhari went there, a woman was the Minister of Defense. So, a big deal.
Because once we are even able to achieve what we want, security of the country, it's an important thing. You know.
All right. After much agitation, a new song is emanating from Southeast Nigeria. over Monday's sit at home. The indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, has announced that every Monday will now be observed as Economic Empowerment Day in the entire zone. The decision, which follows cancellation of all forms of sit at home by Nnamdi Kanu's handwritten letter, is aimed at helping people of the region to mobilize resources to reverse the negative impact caused by the prolonged sit at home on the economic, education, and social sector. Jide, how would this go? Because for months,
now
moving to years, it has been, this Monday sit-at-home thing has been very, very effective.
I'm happy for one thing. The people who instituted the sit-at-home policy, they are the ones who have come out now to say, we don't want it again.
Don't sit at home again.
And significantly, in the course of last week, Eze Chukwumekairi, the Eze of Eri Kingdom, Enugu Aguleri, the man who gave me the traditional title of Okulora, led some Igbo men to see Nnamdi Kanu in the DSS custody. Senator Ifeanyi Uba was also among them. And Nnamdi Kanu insisted again that I have cancelled all forms of civil defense. When he said all forms, it means whether on the day that is being taken to court or on Mondays, no more sit at home. If you see this statement that Emma Powerful, the spokesman of IPOB, issued, he said that continuous civil disobedience by way of sit at home has crushed the economy of the Southeast. It was a survey carried out indicated that in 71 Mondays, the Southeast lost about $10 billion.
71 Mondays.
71 Mondays. That is beginning from when they started sit at home to the end of 2022.
The year is 52.
You know? So, because they started it in 2021 or so. I think they started it July. In July 2021, around that time. And then they stopped it. They stopped the every Monday thing and switched to days when Nnamdi's court. But the cultists and other people, they did not listen. Now you've heard what Simon Ekpa saying, that the letter from Nnamdi Kanu, and written in Nnamdi Kanu's hand, is fake, because he wants to continue the sit-at-home regime, which many people suspect that they're actually making money from it. Because there are people based abroad who are sending money to say, okay, let's support our people, so that the struggle can go on and all that. But they don't know underneath that there are people who are actually making money off this thing, making money off the pains of our people. So I'm happy now they are saying, okay, that day should now be Economic Empowerment Day, EED, and then empowerment of people who are also educationally disadvantaged. There are people who can't pay their school fees, that this should be the time when people from the East help those people. So by admitting that what they started has crushed the economy of the Southeast, is very significant. And that tells me that they won't, for any reason, go back to it again. What we should be talking about now is the possibility of even the use of dialogue to end Nnamdi Kanu's detention. And of course, that has to come with conditions. If he's willing to renounce the armed struggle against our country, when you take up arms against your country, it's a very big offense. If he's ready to renounce it, and we have every reason to believe that at this time it looks serious, then I will not oppose amnesty for him. This is what I've always said. We are not, on Donley's Hangout here, we speak the truth, we speak our minds. We are not tribalist. We love our country, and we want peace to reign in our country. That's where I tend.
Do you see this, working? Because they've tried it several times. They've tried all options. The governor of Enugu State has been on this since he was sworn in. And do you see this new measure now?
Now everybody, to use that common phrase, is on the same page, except Simon Ekpa. So, like BQ said, we know what happens in situations like this. You have people funding this process that has led to the destruction of the Southeast, that has led to the depletion of even the population. The Ohaneze Ndigbo did put the number of people who have died of recent during this sit-at-home, killed, not died, killed, at close to about 300 in the last 1 year. I would say that's official. But when we begin to add those that they killed in other places to it, like those shot in INEC offices for trying to register people, for trying to release their voters card, I'm not sure in the last 1-2 years we are going to have less than 1,000 who have been killed in this process. It doesn't make sense. And for somebody who has a life in Finland, who is not stopped from going out on any day of the week he chooses, at any hour he decides, to be imposing sit-at-home here back in Nigeria, I think that is crazy. And those people in the Southeast should be able to sit down and think through it. First step, like BQ said, if Nnamdi Kanu has committed himself in writing and with his own handwriting to this, then it's better. It is now time that what the former federal minister was talking about, who is late now, sitting down with Nnamdi Kanu. Basulika, yes. It's now time to do that. We should be able to say, okay, where do we go from here? Do we have your commitment? And ensure, now that the military is under very tight command, that nobody goes aimlessly shooting again in his father's compound or killing anybody.
Yes.
We should be able to know that we are practicing democracy. People have a right to protest. What they don't have a right to do is violent protest. And these people should be allowed to express themselves. In the Southwest, we had, at a time when government was raging against the Odua People's Congress. Now that has stopped because that agitation has been taken over by virtually the entire Southwest. Let's go, let's practice true federalism. There's no harm asking for that because we have seen that what we are practicing now is not taking us anywhere. So if we sit with Nnamdi, if they sit with Nnamdi Kanu and say, see, let's move forward like he has agreed, then it is time to let the man be. Let him go, talk to his people physically, and let's see if at that point Simon Ekpa will order for his killing, or will say, no, that is a fake Nnamdi Kanu that has been released.
This will even show to us who really is in charge.
Who is really in charge.
Because he appears to think that...
superior.
Yes.
There's no going back on anything.
He said he would only listen if he sees Nnamdi Kanu.
In Finland.
Eyeball to eyeball.
In Finland.
How can that...
So do you now bring Nnamdi Kanu to you in Finland?
Saying he should come and sit with you. I mean, this is borderline insanity, honestly.
The man doesn't understand what is going on, and he claims to be a lawyer.
All right. The coup in Niger Republic presents a precarious situation, not just before Nigeria, but the entire globe. There's a series of sanctions to make the coup plotters abandon their plans of usurping power, Nigeria has disconnected the supply of 150 megawatts of electricity daily to Niger. This is part of efforts by the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, to restore democracy in that country. Meanwhile, Nigeria has put its armed forces on alert to carry out military action against the coup plotters if the ongoing dialogue by the heads of government of ECOWAS failed. Jide, yes, I've been told before now that we supply some neighbors. I just thought it was like kind of exaggeration, because if we don't have power supply, we don't have enough power supply, but we can still afford to supply our neighbors. Now,
that was a condition.
For that dam?
Yes, for us to dam, because when you look at the map, Nigeria is at the base, we are at the bottom. If those countries on top of us, Benin Republic and Niger, if they should construct a dam, because it's River Niger, the source of the Kanji, the water for the Kanji Dam is River Niger. And River Niger originated from Futajalon, but it passed through Benin, passed through Niger before coming down to Nigeria. Nigeria is at the bottom. If they should dam it, you will not have enough water. So what we then decided at that time is, don't construct a dam. We will provide you with electricity. This is important to us.
Okay.
You know, even Burkina Faso, we were also giving Burkina Faso electricity at a point. You know, so now
it was like a pact.
Yes, I will not dam.
Okay.
I will not dam, but you will give me electricity. Because if I dam, you will not have access, and you need that water, that pressure, for you to be able to keep your turbines working. So they elected not to dam in exchange for Nigeria providing electricity. So it has nothing to do with whether we have enough or not. Whether you have enough, you must prioritize them. You must prioritize them. And the thing really is, at that time, we didn't have a lot of the gas-fired turbines, gas-fired power plants that we have now. Obasanjo alone set in motion a process of constructing 10 gas-fired power plants to de-emphasize the reliance on Kainji Dam. Today in that area, we have 3 dams, Kainji, Jeba, Shiroro, hydro plants. They are contributing their own quota to electricity generation in our country. We have Egbin here. Egbin is the biggest in West Africa. It is the biggest power plant in Nigeria, the most critical. So there are some people saying, oh, if they don't allow you to get water, I just looked at it, because ignorance, our people feast on ignorance, especially on social media. The power plants, the gas-fired power plants that we have now at installed capacity, even if we do not touch Kainji Dam, will give us sufficient electricity. It's just that we've not, somehow we find it difficult to get them to work at optimum capacity. Either you don't have gas or you have other problems and all that. So that is the thing. So I don't think, I'm not comfortable with the decision to cut electricity to them, because by that you have breached an agreement that you reached many years ago. But I also understand the anger of the ECOWAS heads of government, because if this thing goes on like this, they open their eyes. Between 2020 and now, 6 countries have seen military take power. Even Chad, when Idris Deby was Chief of Army Staff of Chad, he led them to that pincer and decisive defeat of Libya, when he outflanked the Libyan forces and get a decisive defeat on Gaddafi. That was what brought him to limelight. He became president, took over, became president, stayed there for over 30 years, and then his son took over when they killed him. What they told us was that there will be a swift transition to civilian rule. This is what you always hear. These soldiers, when they take over, they become so sweet for them, they don't want to. Now, the African leaders, the ECOWAS leaders are worried that if this thing continues, it will become like something fashionable. You just see that you are literally surrounded by military governments. And if you are not careful, even your own country, you know, it's possible for a country like Ghana, for example, we can't dismiss it, that military can take over in Ghana. We should not even dismiss it in Nigeria. After all, some misguided little boys and girls went to the defense headquarters because their candidate didn't win an election and they were asking for military to take over. So a lot of these young people actually think that, oh, because these guys are young, and because a lot of our political leaders too are not doing their best to make the people happy, to provide the dividends of democracy, more and more people are thinking that even if military comes, it's not a bad idea. So what they have done is to let these guys realize that, look, you can't just come, take over power. Look at what President Buhari said. President Buhari said that he fears for the safety of the man who was president, who has now been detained.
And his family.
Yes. Because anything can happen. We saw what Samuel Doe did. In Liberia, when he took over, he was just killing people for fun. Like somebody mentally deranged. He was just killing people.
Oh.
Yes.
So intoxicating.
So I think that is their concern. But you look at a country like Niger. Niger is extremely dependent on Nigeria. It's a landlocked country. That's not where you want to find yourself. A country that is landlocked is extremely limited, even in terms of warfare. Because where are you going to be receiving supplies? And you are landlocked. So now we close our borders. We started the military drills, around the borders. But for me, as I've said, even on issues with Jide, I don't think war is the issue now. It's possible to economically strangulate this government. Obasanjo issued threats to Sao Tome. When they tried something funny like this, they backed down. When Yahya Jammeh didn't want to leave office after he was defeated in Gambia, we issued threats. President Buhari issued threats, sent the Air Force to go and fly low over his presidential palace. Nobody told him when he picked his phone and called the president, said, I'm ready for talks, sir. I'm ready for talks, sir. How do you guarantee my movement out of the country? And they guaranteed that, provided the private jet that moved him away. So I still believe that other measures will work. It's not everything that military might, that you resort to military might. But when I hear politicians say every means possible, I know they're already thinking about military. But it's not in Nigeria. It shouldn't, even when they talk about that, you find that it's Nigeria leading the charge again. Of course. And we led the charge in Liberia. We led the charge in Sierra Leone. We spent more than $15 billion. We did not achieve anything in Liberia. It is China now that is making money in those countries, going to set up businesses and all that. What is our own? We should be asking ourselves that. Even when we do all these things, to a lot of these African countries that are ungrateful, you know how many Nigerian lives were sacrificed in Liberia, in Angola, all of these places where we've intervened. At the end of the day, they don't even want to hear of our country. Always abuse us. So we've got to weigh our options.
All right. We'll take this break. When we come back, we'll talk more. It's still Journalist Hangout on Sunday. We'll be right back after this timeout.
TVC News, first with breaking news.
Every week, Green Angle, in partnership with Wild Aid, will bring you a documentary series on environmental issues affecting Nigeria's amazing biodiversity, from climate change, air pollution, and wildlife conservation. We will be traveling across Nigeria to give you on-the-ground report of the issues affecting our environment. It airs every Saturday at 4:30 p.m. only on TVC News.
There is always more to a story than the scrimmage line. The part of a story that is not told casts a shadow. It's like the part of an object that is not reached by light. On TVC News, I'm able to explore the many angles there are to a story, talking to stakeholders, asking the difficult questions, and digging for facts. I believe the viewers are able to make a better decision if they're well informed and understand not just a part, but the complete story. TVC News, first with breaking news.
Never miss a moment. Instant breaking news from all over the globe. Live streaming of your favorite programs delivered directly to you. Watch anytime from anywhere on your mobile or smart devices. Download the TVC News app today. Available on Google Play and Apple Store.
Thank you for staying with us. If you're just joining us, this is Journalist Hangout on Sunday. Dosu, so we are looking at, yes, as big brother in West Africa, there's a tendency that, yes, want to play that role. And if you look at what the ECOWAS and co played in the 80s and 90s, you understand. But this is a situation that is very dicey. A journalist wrote on his Facebook page today saying that, look, if the president were to be on exile, the former president, the ousted president were to be on exile, it's another thing. But what these guys did, all the ministers, both the president and his family, they're kind of human shield in a place. And how do we attack without having collateral damage?
Well, if it comes to attacking, I'm sure if the aim is to get those guys out, collateral damages will not be a big consideration. Let me cite an example. When the war in Liberia was on, I was covering the defense headquarters. I was one of those who traveled with the then Ngelale to Liberia. And all these ragtag soldiers, they just came into our office, to the hotel, and started attacking Ngelale and said, no, you can't do that. This man is a Nigerian colonel. So some of us who spoke out, they took us along and left the colonel. And what the late General Sani Abacha told them very loud and clear was that if we are not released within 1 hour, they are going to bring down the defense headquarters where we were being held. And at that point, they knew that all their military chiefs were in there, and the president also. In 5 minutes, we were out. So sometimes you have a situation like that. But like Biko has said, some of these things go beyond what we are looking at. Number one for me is that Niger is as good as Nigeria, if not for the demarcation occasioned by the sharing of Africa by the colonialists. Most of these guys that we see who are doing security work in Lagos, they are from Niger. Yes. And it's like they are now a part of us. We see them as our brothers. Even when our former president was going, he said, if you disturb me too much, yes, I will run. I will go to Niger. Because his people are there. His
cousins are there. Just as some of our people in Adama have cousins in Cameroon.
In Cameroon. And even look at the situation with Benin Republic on this side of the country also. So
the Ras speaking
fluently. They have Obas now in a lot of towns in that place.
They gave us, yes. The guy, the talking drum, proper Yoruba.
So we can't run away from that fact that we are surrounded by people who are our own brothers. The fact that they've delineated because of colonization doesn't make them lesser brother. Two is that we should not get caught in the power tussle among these other countries that are milking Africa, using us to set up their own economic base. VKO made a very serious and valid point that a lot of Nigerians have refused to pay attention to, and which we have been talking about. Between Liberia and Sierra Leone, we spent over $15 billion. $15 billion. What has Nigeria gained from that adventure, apart from losing soldiers?
More than 20,000 soldiers.
Including generals.
We lost people.
What have we gained? Mitishike Kube, who died, the general, was because he was, according to report, beaten by crocodiles while crossing from a river between Liberia and Sierra Leone. In the night, they had to take Sierra Leone at night.
We lost journalists too.
Journalists too there. You know, I told you of my own story. It would have, if not for the intervention of Sonia Abacha, some of us would have been killed. Because those guys took us like they were going to, and they took all our money. So we also need to now consider that what is our own interests? What are we going to gain? If we had gone into Liberia and we were expansionist in nature, all of these companies that we had in Nigeria then, they would have been the ones operating in Liberia. But others came, pushed us into the forefront, said, they praised us, we had the best army. Even the US was operating under the Nigerian command. Nigerians commanded ECOWAS.
They were their colonial master.
And they couldn't, because they didn't even understand the terrain. They didn't even know what to do. They looked for Samuel for how many years? They couldn't get him. It took a Nigerian general to get into his bunker and fish him out. So, but we went there. These people came and took advantage of the economic situation after the war. So we must be careful.
Who are enjoying the place.
They're the ones enjoying it now.
Sometimes you tend to underestimate these things, and it is when you go into it. We are just looking at it like maybe, the capacity of the enemy right now. They might not have enough capacity like us and everything. No, but at the end of the day,
I was looking at pictures of people trying to cut their throats and all that. When they drop, a bomb on you, nobody will see that knife.
That knife.
You won't
even
knife.
I will go to
It's not hand-to-hand combat now.
No.
And some people are already frightened by that. But you see, the truth is, what was it called? Niger Republic can't stand Nigeria in a war. So the difference is like night and day.
Yeah.
You look at the capabilities and the capacity of both militaries. They don't measure up
at all.
It's even a failed state. I've been calling them a failed state since 2016. You see huge areas in Niger Republic, no one is in charge.
Yeah.
So I've always felt something like this could happen. But war, by its nature, can be very, very tricky, very unpredictable.
Very.
When Putin was going into that war in Ukraine, he must have felt, under 1 week.
2 weeks, 1 week.
He will come begging. But the comedian who is the president of the country, against all expectations.
That's proven to be.
He's even the one gingering the Americans and the West generally that look, give us the weapons.
We'll defend ourselves.
We'll defend ourselves. And look at what those Klitschko brothers.
Yeah.
Look at what they've done.
Patriotism.
They are defending. They are on the one front. They do see the video of one of their fighter bombers, a woman, who was lost in the first week of the war. See, the death of that woman has energized the people.
Yeah.
It's not easy to overrun a country of about 50 million people. Even if you would defeat them militarily in pitched battles. How about the insurgency? People don't think about insurgency when they are talking about these things. It's not going to be just conventional warfare throughout. Niger Republic shares boundary with Nigeria across no less than 6 states, beginning from the northwest, ending in the northeast. Damasak in Borno State, they share border with them. Abadam, also in Borno State. In fact, our soldiers, and I was told that they even they allow soldiers to enter because you see, Abadam local government is inhabited only by soldiers. The place had been unsafe. Malam Fatori, that was where Colonel Buhari was killed in a night attack by Boko Haram. Our soldiers have been there. In fact, a good number of our main battle tanks, our main battle tank, the T-72 Russian tank, they are located there. So we have good presence. But when they want to eat, they cross into Boso in the Niger Republic because there are no markets like you have in communities where you have civilians and all that. But now they say, no, you can't get into Boso. That's bad for our troops because if they can't go there to buy the things that they need to eat, buy food and all that, how do they stock their supplies? And war is coming. Indeed, we go to war. You look at Damasak, the rice-producing belt of Borno State, is very close to Difa in the Niger Republic. We even have IDPs in some of those places. They sheltered our people from Boko Haram. If you look at this issue, war is an emotive issue. You look at all of these issues, you ask yourself, people that share border with us in Sokoto, in Katsina, in Jigawa, in Borno, in Yobe, in Katsina, are those the people that we want to wage war with? It's tough. They are it's the insurgency that I fear, not the military. As for military capability, look, there are very few countries in this continent that I do not trust the Nigerian army against, or the Nigerian forces against, the Air Force and all. I don't rate Niger Republic at all. But in a war, the insurgency element, look at Kyiv. Kyiv, for example. The day Russia decides, okay, we want to launch a ground attack against Kyiv, you will see what will happen. With the huge population of that place. How are you going to get around that? People must think about all these things. How are you going to get around that? You invade a big city like that, the insurgents will finish you up. They tried it even in Afghanistan. The Russians were disgraced. They used knife, they were cutting the bellies of Russian soldiers. They ran away from Afghanistan.
You even made the point very seriously with Sierra Leone, where US could not even make a headway.
No, they are very tactical when it comes to those things. Before they put their boots on ground, after their humiliation,
what will come?
After their humiliation in Vietnam, and even what happened in Somalia, they humiliated them in Somalia, where they said, okay, we're going to keep peace. They are always reluctant to put boots on ground unless they are very sure.
Very sure, because they know that.
Let some other people do it for them. During the Gulf War, they used some Arab countries to penetrate some parts of Iraq. The Syrians were there, the Qataris were there, Saudis. They know the implication of going to some people, some places. It will lead to loss of life. Do you know how many soldiers U.S. lost in Fallujah? They kept losing people in Fallujah.
Even regardless of those countries that are saying that they will come to assist Niger, that we can still face them. Like those countries like Mali, that they have military regime.
No. Leave all of those ones that are those ones they don't even have a say at all. Because like we have said, if it's about the war, do you know that we have generals in the Air Force who still go to the war colleges in the US to lecture? Because of their understanding of some of the aircraft in use now, especially the older ones. When you see our guys, especially the time of Sierra Leone and the rest, plotting their graph for attack, you will give them the salute. But it is not really about that. When you finish bombing all the places you are supposed to go to, what happens? Is Liberia fully settled today? It's a no. Is Sierra Leone fully settled today? It's a no. So why do we need?
Because in Libya,
Libya, is it fully settled today?
Saddam.
You got him.
So,
but is there peace?
it's a divided country.
Till now,
Yes.
because of that, look at the number of Nigerians they keep bringing back.
Aftermath might not be.
Yes, look at the number of Nigerians
It's
that
not
they
always,
keep sending back. Because they are not finding it
It's
easy
not always
again.
desirable.
It's not.
I still think
It's
that
not.
if they thoroughly strangulate this guy economically,
Yes, it will work.
no flights to the place, close the borders, no commercial or even
No,
special flights.
yes, no
nothing.
fuel,
And
no
they are
nothing.
landlocked. So how are they going to survive?
All right, and finally, desperate times are here, and desperate measures are required to make things balance. The governor of Delta State is forming a committee to explore electric vehicles for mass transit after fuel subsidy removal led to hike in petrol costs and increased transportation expenses. The governor announced his intention to form the committee after test driving 2 electric vehicles locally assembled by Nigerian mobility technology company Jet Motors. This is as the federal government is concluding plans for compressed natural gas fired vehicles. This is interesting.
It is. And I think that just as the narrator said, desperate times require desperate measures. I think that this is an opportunity for us to also go along with global-based practices.
Yeah.
The world is moving away from petrol-fired vehicles gradually. In fact, the way it is now, in another 15 to 20 years, we may not be able to import petrol-fired vehicles anymore.
They won't even be available.
They won't be available because countries of the world are agreeing now that, look, this pollution and all that is too much. Let us go.
What will become of our crude oil then?
That's why people have to look for alternatives, tourism and all that. Look at UAE. Despite all their richness in crude oil deposits and all that, you can see that they've chosen to work on tourism. They've chosen to work on tourism.
That's
They are
their
getting
main-
their rewards. Yes, everybody wants to go to Dubai. Everybody wants to go to Dubai. The tallest building, do you know how much money?
Now apply for visa.
Yes.
Go to Dubai.
And don't forget
Because
that
we too are behaving badly.
Now go
Are
to
behaving badly,
biometric.
and when you behave badly, there are implications. You know, they are not going to wait for you to destroy their country.
and don't forget also that Abu Dhabi is there. It's taking over.
So now, you have 2 companies, 2 homegrown automobile companies, Innocent Motors and Jet Motor Company. Innocent Motors produce gasoline-fired engines as well as CNG-fired engines. But Jet Motor Company, owned by GIG, led by Chidi Ajero. Chidi Ajero is about 35 years. He is the man who has revolutionized the logistics business in our country.
God is good motors.
Yes. He
Online.
lost his
online
parents,
presence
Ayo.
is-
That is the kind of grass to grace story. It's the kind of story that should inspire every young man. He lost his parents and he took over the business. Today, God is good in terms of logistics. He's already looking like a world-class company. And now he has diversified and moved into automobile motor manufacturing. Unlike Innocent, they produce petrol engines, vehicles using petrol engines, vehicles using CNG, compressed natural gas, and electric vehicles. For now, they are the only indigenous automobile company into electric vehicles. And Mr. President has also made it clear that it's just that this distraction that this subsidy removal has caused has not fully let us see the extent of what the man wants to do. But he has shown that he is forward-thinking and he wants Nigeria, using the National Automotive Development and Design Council, to go fully into electric vehicle production. So when I saw what this governor has done, I said, wow. You know the advantage, if I have an electric vehicle, for example, I won't be spending money on mechanics. My plug, my tires, those are the things that will cost you money. But if you are using a petrol-fired engine, you spend money, you buy spares, you change your engines and all that. You don't have to change engine with this one. Once you have you should be ready to change your tires at all times when the need arises. And then, so it's much more, it's extremely cheap to maintain, change your brake pad, change your tire. Those are the things that you spend money on. And going with that, government has to set up centers, charging centers. You see filling stations. Those filling stations, just like it is in the US.
Yes.
You see those filling stations, that's where you charge. You will charge your...
So maybe from here to Ibadan now, we should have several
of them running on solar. Because when you talk about it, the ignorant will say, oh, a country that cannot provide electricity, they're asking for electric vehicles. No, it is solar. It is solar that they will be using to charge them. So this one is an electric vehicle, for example, from Jet Motor Company.
This is a good project, and the federal government is concluding plans for compressed natural gas-fired vehicles too.
I believe in it. And like I've always said, these are the issues that Nigerians should be discussing now.
Yes.
These are the issues.
To ease the pains
instead of when something happens, the first thing we are demanding for is increase in salary. Forgetting that inflation will also still eat it up.
Of course.
It will.
All those women are waiting.
They are waiting now. The market people, they are waiting for you. Because it's the same thing that has affected you. But we should be looking for a cheaper means of doing our businesses, especially transportation. If we get this right, it will go a long way. But we should also not forget that this will also require a lot of investment.
Yes.
Like Diko has said. So where we are going to get money for those investments should be of primary concern to the government. We can have estates also, organized estates, having some of these charging points.
Yes.
Organized estates.
Yes.
It won't be for free. You can set up, you can, all this money,
we are getting there.
all this money that we are talking about that government wants to give out, you can have investors who will come, set them up, or in an estate, for instance, organized. It's a government setup. You charge, you have a lot of charging points, 6 hours maximum. You are good to go. And you pay so, and so, which will be far from, because think about it, you want to buy 20 liters of petrol now.
That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. Well, you don't need that amount, not even 1/10 of it, to fully charge it and take you around for, if you are the one who drives short distances, 20, 30 minutes to your workplace, you don't need to recharge in 1 week. You really don't need to.
No, because like 2 hours, 2 hours of consistent driving, you will need charging.
Yes.
Who will wait
for
driven? If there are those filling stations where you simply walk,
just walking
to recharge, who will wait for that long? You don't have to wait until your battery is flat.
You don't charge. And I was also told that in this kind of scenario, unlike the petrol and diesel engines, if you are traveling for about a month, when you return, your battery won't go flat. It's still there because all you just need is to top it up. But if you do it with the conventional vehicles that we have now, that battery is condemned.
Yes.
Okay. Joining us for more on this discussion, on this issue, is a special advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Ajuri Ngelale. Thank you for staying with us, Ajuri.
Gentlemen, good afternoon, and good afternoon to all of our viewers.
Good to see you.
Good to see you again.
Well, say congratulations, your new appointment, special advisor to the president.
Official spokesman.
Thank you very much.
So we are here again. We're talking compressed natural gas fired vehicle engines and electric vehicles. The president has shown a desire to move in this direction. Help us to understand what the president is thinking, what is propelling this desire of the president.
Yes, you know, of course, His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is renowned, not just around this country, but around the continent as a visionary. He is someone who sees things happen before they happen. I recall in the early 2000s when he rolled out the plans for intra-city railway for Lagos. Many people thought it was impossible, and today, of course, everyone has now seen that come into manifestation. This is no different. We are going to see in short order an unprecedented scale of investment, not just in electric vehicle production and distribution, but also in CNG-fueled vehicles, both in production as well as ensuring that you've dealt with the supply side and the demand side. What do I mean by that? Mr. President, seeing, obviously, understanding the pain that Nigerians are facing and feeling throughout all parts of this country as a result of the removal of the fuel subsidy, with the fuel price at an average currently of about 617 naira per liter, and knowing that CNG runs at approximately anywhere between 139 to 170 naira per liter, it's really a no-brainer to move aggressively into ensuring that we are able to adopt CNG-fueled vehicles across, particularly our commercial vehicle and transportation companies across especially the urban centers of our country, at least in the first phase. How this is going to work is that already we've partnered with an indigenous company, NIPCO, which may be familiar to many Nigerians. They already have 14 CNG filling stations across the country, really the only company to have CNG filling stations at that scale. Clearly, there's need to massively scale that up so that we can get those stations established across the country. But within the parameters of the agreement, which has been struck very recently under this administration between the NNPCL and NIPCO, there's essentially a two-phase program which will lead to the development and establishment of 56 new CNG filling stations nationwide across all states of the Federation. That does not include the co-location of CNG filling facilities at existing NNPC filling stations. These are only NIPCO filling stations that I'm referring to, 56. In phase one, which runs, again, this is time-based because Mr. President understands the urgency required to deal with resolving or alleviating the pains being felt by Nigerians. In the first phase that runs from between now and approximately March 31st, 2024, that's about 9 months, essentially. What we're going to be doing is rolling out 21 CNG filling stations across the country, across all geopolitical zones. And then phase two will run from April 1, 2024 to March 31st, 2025, essentially 1 year later, for the remaining 35 CNG filling stations under our agreement with NIPCO, which brings it to 56. This is going to enable us to service approximately 200,000 customers daily through these 56 CNG filling stations. But in addition to that, these filling stations are going to be run not just on gas pipelines, because you have multiple types of filling stations, and I want to be clear about how this works. You have what we call the online stations. These are stations that are linked directly to the gas feeding pipeline, right? But many of the areas across this country are not yet linked by pipeline. So what you also have within the parameters of this agreement, and there are other agreements which I'll soon cite, but within this agreement, you also have what we call the mother stations. Mother stations are essentially stations that would allow you to fuel what we call mobile cascade units. These are the trucks that will be going to other filling stations to fill the production requirements of those filling stations that are not on the gas pipeline. So, for example, if you have a place like maybe Jigawa or somewhere like that, or even closer, a place like Niger, for example, we would now be able to get to them using these mobile cascade units, which are essentially these mega trucks that will transport the CNG from the mother stations, which will be filling these cascade units, to those stations that are offline, known as daughter booster stations. So you have the mother stations, which is the hub. Then you have the daughter stations, which are offline, that will be fed by the cascade units moving to them from the mother stations. That's how that's going to work. Now, in addition to that, we have now said, look, you cannot just look at putting together CNG filling stations under one company. Yes, that's an important part of this, but we also know that for those stations that cannot be fed online on a gas pipeline in far-flung parts of the country, particularly in the north, we know that, of course, we're going to be heavily relying on what we call virtual pipelines. Virtual pipelines being, truck distribution networks. So what we have in store is there's a company, for example, known as Greenville and LNG, that already has an articulated virtual pipeline network, a network of trucking distribution lines that they've used for PMS filling stations for a long time, and LNG, that we will now be able to leverage on for the transportation of CNG products. It's important to note that with CNG, unlike some of the other fuels, if it's outside of a 250-kilometer radius, that transportation of the CNG product becomes non-viable because of the nature of CNG. So it's important that whatever you're doing is within a 250-kilometer radius, which is why it now becomes very strategic to have the mother stations, which can now feed those stations that will be offline on a sustainable basis. Then, in addition to all of that, the president has said, look, he's a financial architect and a financial engineer. He's a planner and then an executor. So what he's now said is, look, we're dealing with the short-term pains through the arrangements that I've just cited and through some other arrangements. But we also have to look at the medium to long term to ensure that Nigerians living in every part of the country can have access to CNG, not just filling stations, but the kits that will actually enable you to move your car from being PMS dependent to now CNG compliant. So how this is going to work, in addition to the filling stations I mentioned, 56, within the first two phases of the program, ending by April 1st, 2025, which is essentially midterm of this administration. What we're also going to be doing is we're going to put in place over 30 essentially 36 factory-kitted equipment workshops where any Nigerian bringing their car, their truck, their motorcycle, even keke napep, can come and have these conversion kits applied to their vehicles so that they can now move from PMS, which is obviously much more expensive, almost 4 times as expensive, to CNG, saving their costs over time. In addition to all of that, there's also going to be the... Yes.
Listen to me. That's the point that a lot of Nigerians really need some clarity about. How much is it going to cost them to have this conversion take place? Because people are saying, oh, it's expensive for this conversion to take place, this and that. Many Nigerians are already worried, but they don't want to spend so much money.
Yes.
Is government going to build these service centers and have the conversion to CNG-fired engines subsidized to the point that the average Nigerian can afford it.
And how long will it take?
Yes.
Because people don't want to just put their vehicles down for weeks.
Very important question and a pragmatic one. So this is why I was saying that the president is a very meticulous planner and executor of policy, because he's already envisaged that. And so part of the policy involves a very important collaboration between the federal administration and the state governments. The reason why this plays into what you have just asked is, if we're talking about how much a conversion kit, for example, a CNG conversion kit will cost, you're dealing with now the factors that lead to the determination of that final cost burden that the end user, the Nigerian citizen, is going to be faced at the end, how much he or she will be purchasing it at. What are those factors? So, for example, if we're, let's just say at the forefront of the policy, in the beginning, at least at the beginning, because of the urgency involved in the situation, we say that at the outset, we will have a gradual process of moving from full import of the fully finished, conversion kits from abroad. If that is the case, what we can do and what we are going to do as part of the policy is ensure that we put in place zero customs duty on all CNG conversion kits, meaning that if the supplier is no longer having to pay hefty customs duties on the import of these conversion kits, obviously that dramatically reduces the end user's cost implication when he's ready to buy the kit. That's one. Secondly, we've collaborated with the state governments to say, look, not only will we desire or require from you to put in place a single window, clearance center, effectively where all certifications, all compliances required, compliance certifications required by the state government regulatory authorities, where you can now say, look, you go to that one-stop shop. They will give you all the clearances you require to be able to establish your CNG conversion kit fitting factory, as well as a one-stop shop where you also get the certifications and compliance documents, so that you can set up your CNG filling station. So we've looked at all sides of this, and we've said whatever is going to reduce not just financial cost, but also time cost. This is what we're now working with the state governments to do. Before now, you would have a situation where federal government from the center comes out with a very fantastic policy. It sounds great on paper. But because they have not effectively elucidated those things that need to be done with the states to make it actionable, to make it efficient, there's all sorts of time delays and financial implications and duplications and all of these kinds of things. Now, with this policy, we have worked hand in glove with the state governments to ensure that we reduce the time cost. We also ensure that the state governments have signed on to agree to the swift allocation to the most accessible land plots within their various urban centers, where they will give these plots to CNG filling station developers and establishment authorities, so that they have quick access to land, they have quick clearance through the compliance process with the
last
state
broadcast,
and regulatory authorities.
Ajuri, during his last broadcast, the president spoke about buying 3,000 CNG fueled vehicles. When will they come in?
Please,
the president promised Nigerians 3,000 vehicles, CNG food powered vehicles. When will they come in?
Thank you very much. So yes, in his remarks, he referred to 100 billion naira that will be spent on the procurement of 3,000 20-seater CNG fueled buses. So we are currently in full-scale negotiations with not just indigenous manufacturers, but also those who can ensure that we get these buses on the ground as quickly as possible. The president, in his remarks, gave a timeline for the distribution of palliatives of approximately 9 months between now, effectively, and the end of March 2024. Of course, there are going, when you're talking about manufacturing of CNG fueled buses, this is going to probably take longer than, for example, releasing 200,000 metric tons of grains from the strategic grain reserves, for example. So it's probably going to go beyond the first quarter of 2024. We're going to be looking at releasing them in phases of hundreds of CNG fueled buses. But in addition to that, providing single-digit interest rate loan facilities to transportation companies across all the urban centers across all states of the Federation, so that not only are they taking custody of the buses, which will divide by 4, essentially, the transportation cost of PMS fueled buses as against the CNG fueled buses for the average Nigerian citizen using those commercial transportation systems. But what we're also saying is that on the flip side of this, we have to be actively looking at EVs. You alluded to that quite a bit in your intro. Right now, the National Automotive Development and Design Company, NADDC, has already been able to establish 18 EV skills workshops and training workshops across the country, where they've already begun the process of transferring skills to local mechanics and local artisans who are going to be involved in the process of ensuring that we have a sustainable structure of EV, mechanical maintenance centers across the country. In addition to that, the NADDC has put in place about 3 different areas where we have solar-powered electric vehicle charging stations in Enugu, in Lagos, and in Sokoto. That has to be massively and swiftly upgraded across the country. We believe we can do that over the course of the next 18 to 24 months. But the most important part of this is accessibility, finance, right? Which is why the federal government, under its new automotive development policy, has put in place a 10-year tax relief on all electric vehicle developers across the country, in addition to a 5-year tax holiday for all companies that want to develop either PMS or CNG fueled automobiles across this country. So whether you're looking at the issue of demand, which has to do with making sure you have these centers where you can convert all of these vehicles. We want to do 1 million vehicle conversions to CNG over the course of the next 5 years. That's going to be done in a process of phases. And the first phase is what I laid out in our agreement with NIPCO, which the president is very, very excited about.
So let's talk about electric cars, electric vehicles once again. What does the government plan to do to ensure that indigenous Nigerian companies go into manufacturing, not just assembling vehicles? Because you look at, China was able to sell 1.2 million electric vehicles in 1 year. This looks like the future where we can really make a lot of money. At least we can get patronage from the West Coast if we move into that area. What is government doing to ensure that it galvanizes indigenous companies to get involved in electric car manufacturing?
And this is really where, Babajide, where the National Automotive Design and Development Council, I think, has been quite proactive in recent months, where they've been able to galvanize actors like one of the ones you mentioned, which is Jet EV. But you also have Hyundai Kona Electric Motor Company. Innocent is gradually trying to get involved in that field as well, and others. We want to ensure that we have as many hands at the table as possible to really create a competitive marketplace, which obviously would eventually bring costs down through the competition. But I think it's obvious that we have, we are very much beneficiaries of being a country that's sited on the equator. We have plenty of sunlight, and we need to leverage that, which is why the future of the Nigerian transportation system is really going to involve having these solar-powered, as against electricity-powered, solar-powered, recharge stations across our federal expressways, where we know that vehicles and solar-powered electric buses, for example, are able to move to the tune of approximately 250 to 300 kilometers before they need to recharge. If we can have that kind of availability of these solar-powered recharge stations across our federal expressways. Not necessarily just built by government, but of course built by private sector partners, just the way you see Tesla doing it across Western countries. We can do that locally, and we can do it quite cheaply, obviously with the availability of solar power. So this is going to be the way of the future. But then you also have to be pragmatic about the fact of what is on ground today, and the fact that we have so much domestic gas resource that has been underutilized, that we have just been flaring and wasting and even destroying our environment with, when we could have been turning that into US dollars and foreign exchange earnings. So our focus now is to be sure that we deal, yes, with EVs simultaneously as we deal with the issue of maximizing the utilization of our domestic gas resources, so that we develop our local market to the point where we can actually have the competitive regional advantage to be able to be exporting CNG fueled and electronic and EVs that are produced in Nigeria to our neighbors, who are also going to be using Nigerian, produced CNG. So we get the benefit of, them buying the front end and also them buying the back end, all at the benefit of the Nigerian economy. The president is determined to ensure that Nigeria's economy gets full value for all aspects of the value chain, whether it is EV, whether it is CNG-fueled automobiles or mass transit systems. We want to make sure that we're not just simply importing. Yes, in the short run, because of the urgency of the situation, and we need to minimize the...
One final question for you before we go. Ajuri, one final question from you.
Yes. Okay, go ahead.
A lot of people are still thinking about now is the fact that some of these projections, they are long term. We are talking about 9 months, 24 months, and the rest. What happens in the interim? How close are we to getting what majority of Nigerians, not just government workers, will consider a relief in the transport sector? Because that is where the major issue is. As a car owner, you can't afford to enter into any petrol station now, no matter which part of the country you are, with less than 5,000 naira. So what's the shortcut? How do we move, at least in the interim, before all these long-term reliefs will come?
Well, I think in the context of what we're talking about, I don't think we would call 9 months long term. This is, I think, by any planning, projection, 0 to 9 months would constitute short term as part of a long term strategy. But what I would say is that we are not in the business, and I've said this to various audiences in recent days. We're not in the business of making false promises. We will only tell Nigerians what we know we can do. I think part of the reason why Nigerians have hold so much skepticism toward government is that they've been told that they will receive things that they don't end up receiving. So we want to stay on the path of truth. We want to tell people what we can do within the legitimate realities and financial constraints that we currently have, and to bring that amelioration of suffering in the country. But what I will say is this to your question. We have already put together the financial package for the transportation companies to access in immediate effect. This should, in turn, lead to a very quick, at least, reduction in the cost of transportation, at least in the mass transit systems across the country. That is something we can do immediately. The president has already put in place, signed 4 executive orders that have suspended taxes that would have already hit companies such as mass transit companies and many others across the country that will no longer be in effect as a result of the suspension caused by his executive order, which he signed, meaning that these transport companies and many others are having more expendable internal revenues that they can now use to create a buffer for users of those mass transit systems. That's in the immediate term, not in 9 months. So yes, we do the one we can do today, but we also are realistic with our people to say, look, there's no such thing as snapping your fingers and having buildings built in 24 hours. It doesn't happen like that anywhere. We tell people what we can do, but the one we say we can do and the timeline at which we say we will do it, we must abide by that, and we must fulfill that promise to Nigerians. And that is the commitment that we are making under the leadership and administration of His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Okay, Ajuri will be on our current affairs show, Politics Tonight, on Wednesday by 8 p.m. So you can catch up with Ajuri for 1 full hour on Wednesday by 8 p.m. on Wednesday, just this Wednesday. I want to thank you for your time, Ajuri. Thank you for your intervention.
Thank you for your intervention. Thank you for having me. God bless all of you.
Amen.
Julie?
Yes.
Done and dusted, and I wish that we just get there, that we wake up tomorrow morning, we are able to, I can change my small SUV to compressed natural gas, and it will cost me less.
I think the point is this: when the world was moving from the stick to that's the manual to auto drive, it seemed it was going to take us ages. But when people saw that even those vehicles were no longer available, we moved.
Straight.
We moved.
Straight.
Because if you ask me, like you said, it may look like it's going to cost us a fortune. But if I sit down and I think of what I'm going to save,
What you are going to save.
I'll be willing to dispose of my vehicles now.
What am I doing?
And maybe buy one that
What
is
do you do with petrol?
That is CNG fired.
CNG fired and move on with my life. And also, the government can help very quickly too by ensuring that our mechanics, the local ones, they are trained in doing all of these things.
They have to be involved in this conversation.
In this conversation. You can't afford to leave them behind because not everybody can go and queue at these places where they do this conversion when there is a problem.
All right, Dr. Olagbo, thank you for your intervention. Thanks. I want to thank Ajuri Ngelale, the special advisor to the president on media and publicity, for his own intervention, and the maestro himself, Babajide Kolade Otitoju, for another wonderful production for Journalists Hangout on Sunday.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that's our offering today. Join us tomorrow for a regular episode of Journalists Hangout by 5 p.m. You can watch the repeat broadcast tonight by 11:30 p.m. We're on YouTube, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I'm Ayodele Ozubakun. See you tomorrow by 5 p.m.
It's the Premier League all on DSTV. All the goals, all the clashes, all the moments.